A6 cockpit lights glow together. The radar's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. Got to stock a convoy tonight, so stick around. You're gonna hear AAA music, solid walls of sound. Say, Hunter and Zoomy, have you seen them yet? The red tracers are so spaced out, bombing in the jets. Despite hostile fire, it's wonderful. Intruder, she's really keen. She's got a radar boot, we're in hot pursuit. You know we hit them in their magazine. Whoa, whoa, bombing in the jets. A6, Washington's betrayed us. Money hasn't blinded, our mission has no basis. We shall survive, let us take ourselves along. While families fight our leaders in the streets to find who's right and who's wrong. Say, Hunter and Zoomy, have you seen them yet? The red tracers are so spaced out, bombing in the jets. Despite hostile fire, it's wonderful.
I was raised in a Navy family. Because he was a dentist, he had to get education all the time. He was assigned back to Tufts in Boston. He was at the Bethesda Navy Hospital. So I went to school at DeMatha High School in Maryland and played football there. And that was my kind of introduction into discipline, regimentation, sacrificing for the good of the team, and so on. Then we moved my 10th grade year to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I went to high school on the base with Marines kids, a few other Navy kids. They had a football team. I played early on. They elected me the captain when I was a junior and senior. I liked the Marine kids. I liked the Marine parents and way of life. And then sure enough, it's time to go to college, and there's Vietnam. And at the age that I was, it was clear that I was going to be heading that way eventually. So what I enjoyed most, I'd say, was football. I was not a great student in high school. I liked Latin, and I liked English, which would show up later in my life when I began writing. I was Roman Catholic. My parents were Catholic. They were from the Midwest, Irish background. They both had gone to Creighton University, which is a Jesuit school, and the Jesuits are very big on thinking, and they emphasized that with me all the time. Think. And I'm a feeler. So it was good to have that oversight. Hey, you've got to learn to think in this world because, and you need to feel, of course, but if you're going to go on and make something of yourself, you've got to think your way through things. And I practiced that religion well into my life, I would say. Not so much anymore, because I think religion is a great thing, but it's a fence. At a certain point, you have to get outside the fence and find real spirituality. And I think that's what I've done in the latter part of my life. But the Roman Catholic upbringing was good. After high school, I went to college in North Carolina, East Carolina University. It was obvious that Vietnam was going to be out there when I finished. And one of my high school friends, that he said, why don't you join the Marine Corps' Platoon Leaders Class program? I had no reservations about going on active duty and going into combat. That's kind of what I'd been raised with for the last 4 years. I was confident in myself, and I could see that it would be a good way to start life. In those days, everybody was, at least the young males, were very patriotic. And if there was a call to defend the country, we were all for it. All my high school friends and college friends ended up either enlisting or getting into some commissioning program. So when I was offered flight school, I must say, in my senior year in college, I thought, okay, that's going to be a better way than sloshing through the swamps with an M14 in Vietnam. But I wanted to go. People will say thank you for your service. And I say, you know, you're welcome, thank you for thanking me, but wild horses couldn't have kept me out of it. I was all in. I became a naval flight officer, and I was crewed on the A6 Intruder. I got training in Pensacola and at Cherry Point, North Carolina. At about 23 years of age, was sent to join a combat squadron in Vietnam, VMA AW 225, the Vikings. At Da Nang Air Base, one side of the field was the Marine side, the other side was the Air Force side. And on the Marine side, we were in Marine Air Group 11. So we had a full complement of everything pretty much that the Marine Corps flew fixed wing. Our mission, and I flew 231 of these missions in a year, mostly night, was to interdict the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The trail was heavily defended. They knew we were coming. It was daunting in a way. You would look out there, they'd hear you coming, they'd start the fire, and you just say to yourself, I don't know how we are going to make it through that net of AAA, but that's the job. The airplane, the A6 Intruder, had a very advanced attack navigation system with radar that would pick up the moving targets. It would just light up every one of the trucks, and you could put your bombing cursors on the front truck and string a load of bombs. We carried either 28 500-pound bombs or 20 cluster bombs, specially designed for convoys. We dropped them. We almost always got some kind of BDA, bomb damage assessment. We always got a few trucks, sometimes 18 or 20 or even more trucks. They were protecting them, so it was frightening to say the least, and every now and then they'd get somebody. They'd shoot somebody down. The enemy on the ground there was primarily the Pathet Lao. They were known to not take prisoners. You didn't want to be the guy that got shot down. Although I came back with battle damage a few times, knock on wood, I made it back safely for the year. It was scary, like I say, when you got back on the ground. You went to the club, no matter what time of night it was. If you had a 2 o'clock a.m. mission, you landed the airplane, went to the club. There were always people there. The drinks, I think, were 10 cents each. Often there was a floor show, and that was the enjoyment there. And if you got back, you just kind of celebrated living another day, because I don't think any of us expected to live from one day to the next because of the volume of fire we were facing every night. It was an unusual thing for a 24-year-old to learn. Live in the moment. But you learn to live in the moment, live in this day, because you definitely didn't think you were going to get tomorrow. And in spite of the fact that the food was terrible, it was humid, muggy, rainy, dusty, and miserable, and you were almost like in jail there. You were sent there for a year. The American people didn't want you there, and they didn't actually like you for going there. The American government really wasn't behind you. We felt like we were imprisoned in a way. You better figure out a way to make your day happy. I started learning that then. Hey, this might be all I have. And as bad as things are, I can't let myself see it that way, because I got to get joy out of this somehow. And the joy was the other Marines. And I think Marines are good at that. We learn to really joke with each other, like each other, and in spite of the fact that nobody was in favor of that war, we had to invest ourselves professionally 100% in our attitude, in ourself, and pursue our mission, even though it was dangerous, but nobody cared. It was a good spiritual lesson to live in the moment, which I have built upon, I think. The war experience, the year in combat, changed me a lot, especially compared with who I was as a senior in college. And even a young lieutenant going through the Navy flight training system at Pensacola. I lost a lot of friends. Remember, I went to a Marine Corps high school. Then from college, a lot of those guys were killed also. In fact, so many of them were killed that Congress did a special investigation on why so many at that time frame. They were in the famous Tet Offensive, and they were at Quezon, and I killed thousands of people. There's no question about it. And it is in a war that it was controversial then. It's more controversial since. Many people say it was we shouldn't have been there, a waste. I kind of agree. And the funny thing is, I have furniture in my home here that was made in Vietnam. And so I read that and I say, were these people really that much our enemy? Probably not. I've lost dozens, maybe 100 or more friends who shouldn't have been killed, who meant a lot to me. The impact of that is with me every day. There's not a day that I don't think about that. How do you make up for it? You don't, but you be the best you can be every minute. And that is what I have. The Marine Corps kind of teaches you that. My family taught me that. It's ingrained in me, but it's really especially important. So I came back thinking, this is not anything like the yay raw world I left in college. Those guys died. A lot of them were smarter than I was, and I felt like I needed to make up for what they may have become, because a lot of them, they went to very nice universities, smart. So I guess I had what you might call survivor's guilt in a way, but it wasn't a bad thing because it really sort of got me going. I didn't get out and go back and become a high school teacher. That's what I had been trained to be. I stayed in the Marines. I pursued a career there. I had a teaching degree, so I ended up in the training squadron. Almost my whole 20 years in the Marines after that, I was in the training squadron. And it was good. I got a master's degree in adult education, became an even better teacher. The students always wrote good reviews because I knew how to teach. It was a very rewarding and fulfilling career, but I felt like I needed to make up for those guys. To the degree even that when I retired from the Marine Corps, after sort of feeling my way around for a while, I used the VA benefits, which were excellent in those days, and went back to school and got a degree in physician assistant to continue to have a life serving and taking care of people. Again, kind of with that idea that somehow I got to make up for their loss. So it changed me a lot. It redirected me. Life is important. Use it to help people and enjoy. I enjoyed all that. I liked being a Marine officer. Yes, these are my personal decorations from my 20-year service career in the Marines. That's the Vietnamese Campaign Medal. Vietnamese Service is National Defense. These three medals most people received. This, not so. This is a Navy Commendation Medal, and this is for my service as administrative officer of my squadron. I was a first lieutenant. Admin officer is a major's job. So I did it fairly well, so I got a commendation for that. It has a V on it, and that means that that medal was received while in a combat service. The numeral 15 is in there, and that is for the missions that I flew. If you fly and you get shot at, you get 2 points. So we got shot at on almost every mission. That's the Air Medal awarded to aviators. Meritorious Service Medal. This is for meritorious service of a senior officer. This one, the first one was awarded, I was the commanding officer of the air combat element of a combined exercise in 29 Palms, California area. And then the second one was for being the commanding officer of an A6 squadron, which I would be remiss if I didn't say I regard that as my most significant career joy. To command a squadron for an aviation officer or a battalion for an infantry officer, I think everyone would agree who's ever done that, it doesn't get any better than that. You may put on stars after that, but that's what you really remember is commanding the squadron. So I really enjoyed that time frame. This is the Navy Marine Corps Medal for Heroism. When I was the commanding officer of that squadron, I used to run on the beach, and I noticed 2 children caught in a rip current. I went out and saved them and brought them in, and somebody on the beach and said, look, I think this guy was a Marine, and they figured out that it was me. A year later, the commanding general called me in my office and said, assemble your troops in formation in the hangar. We're going to give an award to one of your Marines. I said, great, I'll fall him out. Come on over, General. His adjutant said, persons to be decorated front and center, Lieutenant Colonel Fridley. And I thought, me? That's when I found out that they had awarded me that medal. And that's the highest peacetime medal that you can win for heroism in the Navy or Marine Corps. So I'm proud of that. It was just the luck of me going by there that day. I'm a pretty good swimmer. I was. The changes that I've made in my way of thinking and life since the Marine Corps, I think many things happen as you age, but in my case, my wife Linda had a big influence on me. She really allowed me to be me, to start writing. I wrote a couple of novels, to experience more of a spiritual inclination that maybe my parents had were really trying to give me years ago when they sent me to Catholic school. If you look at my license tag on my car, it says woo-woo guy. So I believe in woo-woo, and that just means that the most important things that I believe in are they're spiritual things, they're family, they're things that you can't prove. God, goodness, brotherhood, peace, the connection of all human beings. That might be the most important thing I learned, and I didn't learn that till much after the Marine Corps. That we're all connected, that we are one. And that puts a huge responsibility on us to be good to each other in a proactive way, and that's really who I am now. So many guys worked hard and became something, so many more than those scruffy people who get the image of the Vietnam veteran, that I don't care for that because it isn't the true image of most of the people who were in that war. They were patriots, and they went on to have a productive life, most of them. Did they discover the spiritual things that I found? Many of them didn't, and many of them would say, I'm a nut. I'm my license plate, woo-woo guy. They laugh at that. I mean, they still respect me, but they think I've maybe gone off in a different direction. Well, I have actually. So, but it's the direction I prefer and choose, and it's a responsible direction, I think. I will say that my friends who I'm still in touch with, who flew those missions with me, beside me, who drank with me when we got back, they don't feel that way. They just feel that, hey, I've dropped my bombs accurately. That's what I was supposed to do. I was there by the order of my commander-in-chief and my whole executive system of my country and the military. I had a job to do, and I did it to the best of my ability. And I do have that feeling also. I mean, that's very true. I was there. What was the option? Go to Canada and be a draft dodger? That was just not an option for me. And I wanted to be in the war because at the time my thinking was, I'm defending my country against communism. That was what we thought. And that domino theory that, well, if Vietnam falls, then Laos, and then Burma, and then Indonesia, and then the whole thing will fall like dominoes. That's the theory our president was operating under when we were all sent. So we were defending our country to the best of our ability, we believe. Still, a lot of people died that didn't need to. A lot of them result of my bombing. And my call sign was Bullseye, because I took particular pride in emphasizing that you fly this airplane, it's an attack airplane, it carries bombs, your job is to put the bombs on the target. You can be an excellent instrument pilot, excellent at getting the airplane back aboard the ship, great flying formation, super at going to the tanker, and after all you've done that, if you go to the target and miss, you just wasted everything. You got to hit the target. Because I sort of preached that at 24 to the other guys, that became how I was known. Bullseye, they'd laugh at me, oh, bullseye. I knew I was right. So it's a kind of a conflict, you're right. You took pride in putting the bombs on the target, now they're dead. I was a practicing physician assistant in Panama City, Florida, living with my wife Linda, who was a practicing nurse practitioner. We had a blended family, my son and her daughter, and it was a very good family. My son had this illness with nosebleeds called hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. And in the exploration and treatment of his illness, we found out that I probably had it. I went to a specialist at the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, Georgia. He said, you have it. Yours is in your lungs. You have about 2 years to live. Enjoy. We'll be glad to follow you here and take care of you. You're going to be okay, but you're going to have more and more trouble breathing, and it's going to feel like there's an elephant on your chest in the end. You could lose weight, and that's about it. So I came home to my wife and told her the story, and she said, well, let's get on the weight problem. I was a good bit heavier. We can send you out to Gabriel Cousins' program in Tucson, and you, for $7,000 in 3 weeks, you can lose weight, or I'll buy a Vitamix and we'll do it right here at home. So we did. We bought the Vitamix. I lost 60 pounds. And then she said, okay, so what do you want to do? You got 2 years to live. What do you want to do? And what do you want done with your remains? And my kids were there. And I said, well, I want my ashes sprinkled on Cathedral Rock. And they said, what? You've never lived in Sedona, but you want your ashes on? Yeah, that's where I want my ashes. So that was it. Within 2 months, my wife had us here. We got out of our condominium there and rented it, and moved in a fifth wheel into Rancho Sedona RV park. And I was going to hike the rest of my, however much I could. But the hiking ended up being good for my lungs. So I just got better and better and better, and the pulmonary hypertension that this disease was causing dissipated. I went for 3 6-month interval checkups at the Mayo Clinic down in Scottsdale. And after 3 visits, they said, you don't have the symptoms bad enough. Go home, hike. You don't have a death penalty. Just keep yourself fit. So that's what got me here. I came here to die. 7 years later, I'm still doing pretty good and enjoying it. Well, it's also part of my woo-woo guy opinion that there is a healing here in Sedona. Sedona is a healing place. I am convinced that part of my reversal of my prognosis is due to, I look out there and this just is beautiful. And my wife's done some research, and she said people live longer who have a sense of awe in their life. It's awesome. Everything I see when I hike is awesome. I live daily with awe because of where I live and what I get to do. I really believe in the magic of Sedona. You'd be hard-pressed to talk me out of that. In 2011, I happened to get a flyer from it's called Sedona Stories. I think it's the Korean group, has so much of the property here. And there was a writing contest. They were going to offer 15 prizes, and they wanted your Sedona story. And they wanted it less than 1,000 words. So I wrote an 850-word essay on what I told you and the healing I'd experienced on the trails, and on a couple of places on the trails that I were sure were vortexes, and that I had gotten some healing messages. First of all, it won the grand prize, $500, and they've included in Itchy Lee's book on Sedona. There's a lot more vortexes, magical spots where the harmony of the rocks matches yours, and you're getting healing or elation or something. The whole place, you know. It's not just Airport Overlook, Bell Rock, Cathedral Rock, four places tourists visit. This whole place is just awesome. Awe. How lucky we are, in my opinion. My own future, I like to think, is about having fun. And for me, that's hiking here in Sedona. I have a health issue that is very much kept in check by vigorous physical exercise, which I've always enjoyed. I'm in a place that has over 150 beautiful day hikes. I like to get out on the trails every day. Now, as I tell my wife, the military pays me a retirement, and so does Social Security. So what my job is, what it has to be, is to be alive. It's just that simple. They're just paying me to keep living and breathing. So I intend to do that job extremely well, and that means doing those things that maintain my physical health. My spiritual health is fun. I like to pray. I do a lot of it every day. My wife and I have a good connection. I've made the best friends of my life here in Sedona, really. So I think I'm just going to enjoy working on my health for as long as I get to have it. And wherever I can, do good for other people.
Hey, six cockpit lights glow together. The radar's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. Got a stock.
Wonderful.
So stick around.
All right.
Music, solid walls of sound. Say, Hunter and Zooby, have you seen them yet? The red tracers are so spaced out, bombing in the jets. Despite hostile fire, it's wonderful. Intruder, she's really keen. She's got a radar boot, we're in hot pursuit. You know we hit them in their magazine. Whoa, whoa, bombing in the jets. A6, Washington's betrayed us. Money hasn't blinded, our mission has no basis. We shall survive, let us take ourselves along. While families fight our leaders in the streets to find who's right and who's wrong. Say, Hunter and Zoomy, have you seen them yet? The red tracers are so spaced out, bombing in the jets. Despite hostile fire, it's wonderful. Intruder, she's really keen. She's got her radar boot, we're in hot pursuit. You know we hit them in their magazine. Oh, bombing in the jets.